So welcome to video 4 in the Extemp playlist. In the last 3 videos, we've covered what Extemp is and what its purpose is as well, your purpose in the event, answering the question. And with that in mind, in the next coming videos, I'm going to be dissecting what an Extemp speech looks like at every part. And so I wanted to lay out all of the parts of an Extemp speech that I deem necessary, at least in the beginning, for us before we get into those videos. So with that in mind, keep in mind that extemporaneous speaking, you're giving a 7-minute speech. So all of these parts fit somewhere into that 7-minute speech. And so I've kind of formatted this whiteboard, what a flow, which is the paper that you use to write your extemp speech on, what it kind of should look like. I've taken a more horizontal approach here just for space, but of course some people do prefer flowing vertically, like down the paper, and really there's no bad or good way to flow. It's just whatever is easier for you to read. It's kind of like your notes, right? Someone can read your notes well, someone can't read your notes well. Who cares? It's just about you reading your notes. So with that in mind, let's go over the big parts of an extemp speech. So the first part of any speech is its introduction. And in an extemp speech, there is an introduction as well. And it starts off with something you're going to be seeing as called the AGD, or attention getting device. What is that? It's like a hook, jokes, eye-opening statistic, maybe narrative or story, not personal, but just a story. Let's say if you're giving a speech on Saudi Arabia, maybe you tell a story about a woman who was fighting for her rights, maybe lost her life trying to accomplish something. Just give something touching to that nature. But basically it's something that catches the attention of your audience, right? If you start off giving some type of super boring or super uninteresting, or even start off stuttering, you're not going to sound as good as if you have a prepared AGD. And of course, I'll be going more into what AGDs entail in later speeches. This is kind of the second half of your introduction. Right now I wouldn't worry about what SIG statement stands for, but it stands for significant statement basically, and then background, which is kind of the background of your topic. It sets context for your topic, right? So if your topic is about China and Uyghur Muslims, in the context, you need to include what Uyghur Muslims are. Like, how did they even come to that, situation? I always say, assume your judge knows almost nothing about the world around you, except for like basic English language and basic governmental functions. You don't have to define what a president is, but at the same time, you shouldn't assume that they automatically know what a Uyghur Muslim is. Okay, with that in mind, I have a U here, and this is something you might not see if you go to an extemp camp or just get extemp counseling or training from your coach. But U for me stands for umbrella statement, which is kind of like a thesis in an essay, right? So if your question is what steps can the United States take to foster green energy? You might say steps to grow innovation. That's a really broad phrase, but it kind of could entail 3 different points. You might be like innovation in solar energy, innovation in wind energy, innovation in geothermal energy. I'm just giving you an example. So the umbrella would kind of capture all of that. And I think it's really important to have a thesis because that's what you tie all of your later evidence, all of your later points, pretty much everything in your speech back to. It just makes it so much more concise. With that in mind, let's get to the important part of extemp speech, the 3 points. And again, I wouldn't really worry about the A's and B's right now. I'll go over substructure in later, more advanced videos. But basically what you need to understand is that an extemp speech pretty much always has 3 points. Sometimes you'll see 2 points done. I don't personally recommend it, but maybe if you get really advanced, then you can make your own call on that. But I would stick with 3 points. So what does this mean? Well, as I pointed out earlier, if your question is like, how can the United States foster green energy? Your umbrella could be by incentivizing investment into new green technology. And then your points could be green technology in the solar field, green technology in the wind field, and green technology in the hydropower field. You could get more specific in your point, basically. You have a thesis, and these are like your topic sentences. It's almost like an essay. And then here you would have examples, evidence, etc., etc. As for a time breakdown, I think this part, the AGD and background, should be about 1 minute and 30 seconds of your speech. And then each point should also be 1 minute and 30 seconds. If you add that up, that's about 6 minutes. So you still have a minute left of your speech. And that's when you get to your conclusion. In your conclusion, you have a simple job. You restate the question you were initially asked with, which is also something you'll be stating in your introduction, by the way. And you just give some type of powerful sentiment to end off the speech. Don't make it awkward. Don't be like, yeah, that was my speech. That's like the worst way to end. It just kills the vibe. And yeah, so basically, these are the important elements of an Extemp speech: your AGD, background information, and umbrella statement, as well as answering the question inside of the introduction, your points to support it, and then a conclusion. Of course, we'll be dissecting these parts more in later videos, but I just wanted to lay out a general outline just so you know what an Extemp speech really looks like.